are originally from Florida, and you're going to meet a few people like them during the course of the next 3 days. People who are actually doing it in one way or another. They just decided it's time to go. Let's try something different. Let's give it a shot. And you'll hear people giving it a shot in so many different ways it'll make your head swim. The opportunities are legion. I'm going to let Andy and Fran tell you all about it. Andy and Fran Brown, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Dan. Good morning, everybody. Is it that cold in here?
It is.
Little louder, little louder. Good morning. Okay, now we're going to try to warm up a little bit here. Hi, we are Andy and Fran Brown, and we are full-time legal residents here in Costa Rica. Excuse our attire today. We moved here about 18 months ago, and before one of the things we did in moving is we got rid of all of our business attire. We got rid of our clothes that we would normally wear to an event like this. And we never anticipated working, we never anticipated addressing a crowd of 200 or so people. So consequently, our life right now is in sundresses and Hawaiian shirts, nylon shorts, and flip-flops. So that's our life here in Costa Rica, and by golly, I'm glad to be doing that. We were invited here to tell you our story. The great news about that is we've got 30 minutes in which to do it, and we're going to, if you have any questions at the end of everything, just feel free to go ahead and give us a shout, and we will do our best to answer those questions. And we hope in doing so we're not going to bore you, so I think the cold is going to keep you awake anyway. I'd like to tell you our story. We're going to basically tell you who we are, why we're here, where we are within Costa Rica, how we're doing it, and perhaps what our plans are going to be for the future. As you can see, Fran and I are two professional adults. We've worked all of our lives. We've tried to put away money to go ahead and save for our governmentally suggested retirement age at 65. But consequently, the economy had something to do to alter our plans. We have raised two very wonderful and productive sons. We have bought and sold 7 houses, lived in 6 different states across the country. We paid our taxes, and we desperately tried to go ahead and keep our personal debt down to within manageable means. During that time, when we became empty nesters, we managed to go ahead and take about a half a dozen trips to Europe. So we started to fall in love with the life outside of the United States.
Now, Andy makes it sound like we've been great, responsible adults. We paid our bills on time, we never used our home equity line at all, and got in a lot of trouble. Well, I want to tell you a story on something stupid I did one day. So we're not perfect people up here. One day I went to get my hair cut, went to a brand new salon. When I was there, and I had just turned 50 years old, so I'm having this little midlife crisis going on. And I'm going to the new salon, and they give me a questionnaire to fill out. Well, you're not going to believe it. They ask my age, and I'm in the next bubble over. So, that didn't make me feel real good at all. Go ahead, get my hair done, come home. Those home equity checks are looking pretty damn good. I said, Andy, let's go. I want my 350Z convertible. And we went out and bought that convertible that day. Now, I looked hot in it, but that was probably very irresponsible. So we're not the perfect people, like he makes me think we are.
This is a yin-yang thing going on today, so Fran's going to go ahead and make sure that whatever I tell you is going to be centered in reality. I worked at Wachovia Bank as a technology vice president in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Fran worked for a large commercial printing company. During 2008, it became very, very clear to us that the bubble that we've all been living under is about to burst. And we appeared in its direct path. We really tried to go ahead and do the best we can with that kind of a situation.
Well, I'm at a job that I'm not crazy about as it is. An hour's drive. I could see the writing on the wall. It isn't like we just kind of said, oh shit, we don't have jobs, what are we going to do? we kind of knew what was going to happen here. You know, I was working at a great printing, well, not a great, it sucked, but a printing company. And, you know, the presses were humming 24/7, you know, 3 shifts, and all of a sudden, you know, 3rd shift gets cut. Then we go to 4-day work weeks. I'm like, this is happening. I said, Andy, you know, we got to think of something. So we had a plan. We had a great plan. I come into work one morning, go get my cup of coffee, get my computer going, and here comes over the boss. And then the boss's boss. And I went, this is it. It's over. The plan is in process. It's over. They come to me with this sad look. Oh, Fran, we have to, you know, we need to go down and talk at HR. And I'm like, guys, I'm an adult. I've been through this before. And I've got a plan. I said, so don't be sad. Don't be sad. We end up walking downstairs to HR, and I said, but why couldn't you just called me? I had to drive an hour this morning. I said, you could have just called me. It's just not a big deal. We have this plan. So I sign all my papers, and I'm like, out of there. I get in the parking lot. I pop the top in that awesome Z, and heading home, I take the phone out, and I give Andy a call at work. I said, well, guess what? It's your turn now.
During the last 6 months I spent working for Wachovia, as we said earlier, the writing was on the wall. All of my projects that I was in charge of disappeared. My budget disappeared. The people that worked for me were reassigned in other areas of the bank. And so I knew that the situation that we were in was starting to go downhill, and go downhill quite fast. So bottom line was, I like being in control of my life, so I took the initiative. I went into my boss, and I literally offered myself up as a sacrificial lamb. I said, you know, Susan, you got to do me a favor here, and I think I want to do you a favor at the same time. Give me my severance package. Get me the heck out of here. As it turned out, I asked for and I received my severance package from Wachovia Bank. And I couldn't have been any happier. I wound up getting 10.5 months severance, and that was great. And the really cool thing was that I was even eligible to receive unemployment compensation when the whole thing was over with. It became a win-win for everybody here. Wachovia cut their budgets, they lost an employee, I got my 10 months of severance, and I was in a position that Fran and I were going to hopefully put into effect a new plan and move on with our lives. Okay, so now we're both unemployed. What to do? We go into crisis management mode to a certain extent. Fran is the CFO of our family. She manages everything. She's got the Excel spreadsheet from hell that describes everything that we spend, our budget, our plan versus actual, and bottom line is she can tell with a high degree of certainty just exactly where we're at and when we're going to go upside down. We knew about how much money we had. We had a pretty darn good feel for what our burn rate was on our expenses in North Carolina. We needed to go ahead and start getting real right now with deciding where the rest of our lives were going to be spent. We got in touch with our financial planner, and literally we had a come to Jesus meeting with him one day, and we sat down, we said, let's go over our records, let's find out how much do we really have here. We've got money in 401ks, in IRAs and stuff, and we already knew that our 401k took a massive hit with Wachovia, so we lost a buttload of money from that respect. So do we really have enough that we can live and not go back to work? Bottom line is, who's going to hire us right now? So that was the big concern that we were really facing. It seemed to be that right now that our economic survival was the key thing. We knew that two 58-year-old adults making good money at their jobs, we weren't going to be able to go back and find those kinds of jobs again. So we also realized that there was a potential that we may have to leave the country if we were going to go ahead and have a better lifestyle. Now, the first thing we did to better position our cash flow was we immediately went in and refinanced our house. We were spending about $2,500 a month in our mortgage. We only had 4 years left to pay off the house. So we realized that if we we're in a position that we needed to go ahead and liquidate or put ourselves in a position where we would rent our house, we certainly were not going to go ahead and recover our money if we were paying $2,500 a month in mortgage payments. So we said, okay, the heck with our 4 years payoff. We refinanced for 30 years again and got the numbers down to about $980. Now, at least if we had to rent the place, we were in a position to do that. The one expense that we absolutely had little control or no control over that was going to go ahead and be the straw that broke the camel's back was going to be health care expenses. No question about it, health care was the one single item that was coming back to haunt us. We're not unhealthy people. We're not sickly, but we do have some medical baggage that we are having to take along with us. And it was quite likely that over the next 7 years, until we are old enough to go ahead and qualify for Medicare, that we were going to go ahead and burn through quite a bit of cash. We were looking at dropping over $300,000 in premiums for insurance. Insurance alone was going to cost us almost $20,000 a year just to go ahead and be insured, and that's if we stayed well and didn't get sick. We would have out-of-pocket expenses with medications, insurance co-pays. So by staying healthy over the next 7 years until we qualified for Medicare, we'd be dropping over $300,000, and frankly, that was a situation that could have been very catastrophic for us in the long term. We saw the war chest that we had dwindling by the day, and that was a decision that we decided that we just did not want to put ourselves in that position. We realize now that living outside the United States would probably be a solution that would best fit us. One of the first things we did was to consider Europe. As we said earlier, we've been there several times, specifically in England, Germany, the Netherlands, Italy. Bottom line was we loved England, we loved Italy. However, when we started comparing the costs, we knew that living in the United States, our war chest was going to be very, very short. It would not last us a long time. Living over in Europe, that time frame would have been even shorter.
Especially how much wine you drink.
Yeah, well, thank you. I told you about the yin-yang thing going on, okay? So we decided that Europe would not work for us. Growing up in South Florida, we were tuned into the Latin American community, so we figured, what the heck, let's go ahead and consider Latin America. This is where we really started to concentrate our efforts, to do our research and our due diligence. One of the first things we did was we started looking at the key countries as to where we could possibly set up home. Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela, Nicaragua, we ruled those out in the beginning. Now, say what you want about those countries, they're beautiful places to live, but for our lifestyle, for our thought process, we decided for certain personal reasons that those are countries that we did not care to go ahead and pursue. We were also not a huge fan of Panama, although Panama offers some of the best financial incentives for expats to go ahead and reside, and that was quite appealing. We also gave Belize a bit of a kick, but then we realized that, okay, once you've gone ahead and gone fishing for a couple of weeks and you've gone scuba diving for a couple of weeks, what else is there to do in Belize? So while a great place to vacation, we didn't find that the country would have been diverse enough to go ahead and sustain us. What we wound up beginning to think about, was perhaps Brazil and Argentina. So that was on our radar screen. Bottom line was we did not do enough due diligence yet to really and strongly consider those two countries. But they're still on our radar screen as a potential. As for the other countries in Latin America, honestly, we just did not spend the time to go ahead and do the necessary analysis. Time was running out for us, dollars were being spent, so we needed to figure out where we were going to go ahead and initiate our Plan A. So that left Costa Rica. Yeah, we were here on vacation back in 1999 and kind of fell in love with the place at that point, and it was always a fantasy of ours to go ahead and say, yeah, maybe someday when things get really lousy back in the States, we're going to go ahead and retire in Costa Rica. For 10 years, we've been just kicking that idea around as a joke, and as it turned out, it began to be the decision that we would very well land into. So what we're going to do, research is absolutely essential in our plans. We started scouring the internet, hitting every possible website you can imagine, looking for answers to what it would be like living outside the United States in Costa Rica. The majority of the websites that we landed on told us great things about Costa Rica. To a certain extent, it was painting a rose-colored picture of a country that I was starting to get a little bit skeptical. I mean, can any place on earth be this damn good? You can live cheap, no taxes, perfect weather. Costa Rica was ecological leaders, and own a piece of Costa Rica? Sure. At pre-construction prices, you could have anything you want in this country. It was a fantastic place to be. However, one of the things that really came home to roost right now was trust but verify. Make sure you do complete due diligence and question everything you hear, question everything you see. Separate fact from fiction, sales pitch from reality. This is something that you're going to hear a lot when you're here at the conference. When you pursue your investigation and due diligence of Costa Rica or any other country, there's going to be people that are going to try their best to sell you on how great the place is. And for the most part, they're telling you the truth. But they're telling you the truth with a certain degree of bias. There is always a second part to that story. Now, if we were going to go ahead and make Costa Rica our home, we needed to understand what this country was all about. And the internet for us was a great place to start. Nothing beats having to go ahead and get your boots on the ground and do your due diligence. We made 2 trips to Costa Rica in September of '08 and again in January of '09. And we came over here and we met with quite a few people. We took a tour of the Central Valley, and we found out that there were a lot of things that we had read about on the internet and through our investigation that needed to be tempered with a little bit of logic. We also had the opportunity to meet with representatives from a group called ARCR, which is the Association for Residents of Costa Rica. We met with an international moving firm to get a feel for how much it would cost to go ahead and bring our stuff over here. We met with an immigration attorney to go ahead and find out what steps would be necessary to begin the process should we decide to become residents of this country. And we even decided to get our Costa Rican driver's licenses while we were here, which turned out to be a pretty good thing. As it turns out, the local traffic police in Costa Rica tend to be a little bit easier on you if you have a Costa Rican driver's license as opposed to U.S. driver's license, and I found out that the hard way.
Oh, yeah. About those 11 times you were pulled over.
There's a thing they have here. I don't know whether I'm the one who has coined this phrase or not, but it's referred to as DWG, driving while gringo. As you're going down the road, you get stopped because there's profiling going on here, and they kind of roust you a little bit. But you know what? You smile. You answer their questions directly, and everything happens for the best. And I got warned a lot, but I never got any tickets, which was cool. When you combine the totality of the information that we got on our due diligence trips, we decided that moving to Costa Rica really was essential for our long-term financial success, and for us to go ahead and take whatever we had in our war chest and make it last for as long as possible. All the research that we did led us to the Central Valley. This is where we made our decision to land for the first time. We wanted to keep our costs down, so we wanted a place that was relatively cool, temperate, where we did not have to run air conditioning. We did not have to run heating. It was close to medical facilities. The infrastructure for utilities and for internet was relatively stable. I say relatively because nothing is going to be rock solid anywhere in Costa Rica, not even in the heart of the city here in San Jose. You're going to find outages. The internet's going to go down, power's going to go down, water's going to go down. A lot of times these are planned outages. But the infrastructure is relatively sound. And also, where we were looking at, there was a substantial number of gringos in which to network. If there's one word of advice, and Susan mentioned it earlier, in our opinion, one of the strongest things that you can do to go ahead, and this applies to anywhere in the world you go, is to network with as many people as you can, both locals as well as people that you can meet over the internet.
Now, Andy is exactly right, because networking is number one. If we did not network, we would have never found our home in San Ramon. If we did not network, I wouldn't have found my ladies group, which is called Stitch and Bitch. And every Wednesday, we met at a local cafe, and every Wednesday the ladies got together. Some stitch, some bitch, some just talk. But through the networking of all these ladies that I met, I found a great doctor, a great local doctor, a great vet, a place to get my hair cut, how we went and got kaha. We just learned so many things. But through all these ladies is where I found all the things that I needed for creature comforts. And then we went out and did day trips and went to the beach. So I would say networking is the most important thing that has worked for us.
On our final due diligence trip, the one in January, we wound up getting a car, or at least contracting with an individual who would find a car for us when we got here. We also tied up our first rental house, so we signed a lease to go ahead and get that taken care of. We also knew, we made that decision that we were going to go ahead on that January trip, that we were going to come here and give Costa Rica a real good shot for long-term life. So we decided to go ahead and pack up about 6 suitcases, and when we came here on that second due diligence trip, we loaded it up with things that we wanted to have for our first days in Costa Rica, because frankly the container that we were going to ship over here could have taken 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 8 weeks. There's certain things that we wanted right away. We wanted a computer, we wanted a small television set, we wanted this, we wanted that on day one. So we brought those over in suitcases, and we wound up leaving it at a friend's house in the town of Esparza, so that when we did land here on day one, these things were available to us. In October, we went ahead and put our house up for sale. We started selling off all of our big ticket items. We sold off the pool table, the leather sofa, the dining room set, and the bedroom sets. And the great thing about that was that we wound up making enough money selling off those big ticket items to go ahead and finance the entire container shipment here to Costa Rica. So that wound up to be quite a smart move. With our strategy, with our philosophy, having all those things here would not have really enhanced our lives any, because the rental house that we wound up getting would have been too small to go ahead and handle all that furniture to begin with. So we dumped it, financed our way here, and it worked out great. On March 31st, 2009, that was our big D-Day. We left North Carolina, drove down to Atlanta, and got a direct flight from Atlanta into San Jose. When we got here, our car was delivered to us at the airport as promised. It's a far cry from a 350Z Roadster, isn't it? But it gets 26 miles a gallon, it's 4-wheel drive. It's a great car to operate in Costa Rica. After we got the car from the airport, we loaded up with our 9 bags, threw it in there, got on the Inter-American Highway and headed north towards San Ramon, which was the town in which we lived. We wound up renting a really nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in a town of Los Angeles Sur, which is 6 kilometers north of San Ramon. High in the hills, it's on the edge of what's referred to as the Los Angeles cloud forest. 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, we were paying $500 a month in rent. We had to pay electricity. That was about it. However, much to our surprise, the electricity was running us $180 to $220 a month. Kind of freaked us out a little bit, because all of our research on the internet said that we should be paying between $40 and $80 a month electricity.
Well, I had a cow about the electric. I mean, we were supposed to move here and it's supposed to be cheaper. I'm like, what's up with this? This isn't what we read. I can't believe I did this, because I am a city girl. I don't hang clothes outside. I thought, what the hell? I'm retired. What the hell? I'll just hang the clothes out. So I hung the clothes out, and then they're all crunchy. So then I said, well, I'll use the dryer for 10 or 15 minutes, put a dryer sheet, and that was fine. The only bad thing is you can't do it during the rainy season. So you got to use your dryer. We also turned back the water heater and only had hot water in the morning. I think the house that we were living in, I don't think it was grounded. I think it had some problems. But you know what? The saying is, it is what it is. Don't be fooled. It depends how you want to live. A lot of people, a lot of Ticos, they can have $30 a month electric bills. But I don't know if you guys want to live without your dryer, and if you want to live without hot water or suicide showers. And, and one little light bulb. I mean, I need lots of light. It's kind of dark in here as it is now. You guys want to save some money, that's what it is. So just beware of some of those things.
We track all of our expenses on a very, very extensive Excel spreadsheet. We know down to the penny how much we spend in Costa Rica. We go through a toll. On the toll road, it's 150 colones. We get that down on the spreadsheet. So we know exactly what we're spending. When we were living in San Ramon, our expenses there were running between $2,200 and $2,500 a month. All of our groceries were bought at the local market. Our fruits and vegetables were bought at the local farmers market or the feria. Food expenses here in Costa Rica, expect to spend roughly the same thing you spend back in the States. Don't be shocked when you find out how much some of the food items cost here, especially when you start buying gringo branded foods. But that's a far cry from what we were spending back in Charlotte. In Charlotte, our burn rate there was $6,000 a month. So dropping from $6,000 down to $2,500 to us was pretty damn good, and you can see where our nest egg now is going to take us. Instead of a few short years in the U.S., how it's going to last much longer in Costa Rica. Living in one location in our area for 10 months gave us the opportunity to live life not as a vacationer, but live life as a resident. We, again, through our networking, we were able to find out what things are like. When you go someplace on vacation, you're in vacation mode, and a lot of people unfortunately fall into love or they fall into lust with that area, and they say, boom, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to move there. I'm going to buy, I'm going to move in. Advice from us is to go ahead and experience the area first. Rent before you buy. Understand what life is like and live in an area for many, many months and see what the weather patterns are like, see what your neighbors are like, because once you buy into something, it's very easy to buy, and becomes much more difficult to sell sometimes. We took the opportunity after living 10 months in the Central Valley with all the fog, the rain, the wind, etc., and the occasional beautiful day that you'd have out there. We wanted to go ahead and experience something else. So what did we wind up doing? We did what we said we wouldn't do. We moved to the beach, where it's hot and it's more expensive.
And some people come and ask me, why are you moving? What are you, crazy? And I said, because we can. We're renters. You know, we're not settled to any place. Our strategy was to always rent for about 6 months and then move on. Well, he's not going to move every 6 months. So I said, okay, let's do it every year. We get to see the full cycles of the weather and see what we want to do. If it wasn't through networking, I would have never found the home that we're renting now in the Guanacaste area. We're in Playa Hermosa. We pay $1,000 a month for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, beautiful home, granite countertops, stainless steel, you know, and a swimming pool, and a 5-minute walk to the beach. I don't think you can do that in the United States. If it wasn't through the networking of a lady who wanted us to come out and film a dog show, we would have never found that area. And we went to the dog show, we videotaped it, and we said, hell, we're having a lot of fun. Let's move. So I went ahead and got, and I'm sure this is going to be terrible, 2 hombres and a cambion, 2 men in a truck. 2 men, my Spanish is dreadful. 2 men in a truck for $400. I packed, they loaded everything, and 3 hours later we were at our new home.
If you remember, the single biggest reason why we moved to Costa Rica was to go ahead and avert the excessive high costs of health insurance and premiums. In 5 years, we're going to become eligible for Medicare, and we will probably reevaluate our decision to move to Costa Rica or just move outside the United States. But if we had to make that decision today, if we were eligible for Medicare today, and we had to make that decision as to whether or not we would move back to the United States, our answer would be no way, Jose. We're not going to go back to the States. We're enjoying life too much over here. Costa Rica has been pretty good to us. In the time that we have been here, our health has improved, our attitudes have improved, we finally have decent tans, and things are starting to move along. Fran said earlier, we've lost about 25 pounds each, and it's because we're not eating at McDonald's, Wendy's, and we're going to all the places that serve the fast food and the high calories. We're doing our own cooking. So life here is much better for us. We're enjoying it a heck of a lot more. Take the opportunity to go ahead and write down our names, our email addresses. We have a website called boomersoffshore.com if you haven't already seen it. I produce travel videos. As an avocation, I was a video producer and have been doing video production for many, many years. So we decided to chronicle our trip and our adventure to Costa Rica. And we've produced right now about 64 or 65 videos that they're out on our website. Short 3 to 5 minute videos. So if you got a good fast internet connection, check them out. They're a lot of fun, and there's some information to be passed on as well. And if you have any questions, we're going to be here all week. We'll be more than happy to go ahead and chat with you. And if you want to send us an email, I'll be more than happy to go ahead and chat with you that way. So once again, thank you very much, and enjoy your time here at conference.
What a pleasure, and their videos are extraordinary. Please stop by and see them. That's what we were talking about, networking. These guys could be your neighbors. You could join the Stitch and Ditch Club. Can't wait to see what that's like.